Before we begin, thank you very much to Sam-Wow.Wow for joining the Patreon campaign. This is one of those ones I had to investigate before I shouted it out, and it was interesting. I had to make sure that this wasn't going to lead to some like phishing website or something, but it just apparently is just a weird name. Thank you very much for it. Don't put it in your address bar, just in case. Just fair warning. Okay, so we have an unpleasant topic to discuss today because it's been all over my feed over on Twitter. It's been all over a lot of my websites I typically go to. So we got to talk about what Hasbro just did. So this morning they announced that they are going to be cutting another 900 jobs in addition to the 1,000 jobs they announced that they were cutting back in January of this year. Now, for starters, so that's about, close to 2,000 jobs in general they have either cut or announced that they will cut this year alone. And that's about, according to their original estimate, it was about 15% of the workforce altogether. It's, ugh. Now, for starters, it is the nature of business. You know, they're going to cut costs wherever, and they're going to treat their employees as expendable. That's to be expected. They're a giant corporation. They are inherently out for themselves and their shareholders' bank accounts, right? So, this is just kind of typical business as usual in the big business world. I always find it extra scummy when companies go out of their way to actually announce things like this just before the holidays. You imagine being someone at Hasbro, you got 2 weeks until Christmas. Everyone is looking forward to this big celebration, then find out mom or dad might not have a job next year. It's horrible to do. It's horrible timing. At least when you announce it in January, you got the festivities out of the way, and you could actually, kind of excuse it, but to do it right before Christmas, or if you're Jewish, during Hanukkah, is kind of brutal. It's underhanded. It always leaves a bad taste in my mouth. They are citing poor toy sales as an excuse for why that they are cutting so many people. This isn't surprising. Toys in general, toy shops in general have been struggling in the last year or so. Even my toy shop is going through a lot of struggles at the moment. It's just not a great economy for frivolous things. But this isn't just like a one thing. Hasbro's blaming the sale, ever since COVID, the sales haven't picked up. But that's a really thin excuse. Because they've had plenty of toy lines that have done well. The Spider-Verse toys did great because the movie was great and the movie was popular. There's a lot of reasons. So let's kind of dance around where Hasbro has been the last few years, and we'll actually kind of examine this. We will start on topic, however, and we will talk about the Transformer side of things, and honestly, it's just too much. I mean, if you want to point to anything that went wrong with Transformers financially, it's just too much. There's only so many of us collectors. We only have so much money to throw around for these things. So when you're doing capsule lines for both Walmart and Target, on top of your main line for the cartoon, your main line for collectors, your main line for movie fans, your sub lines of exclusives, and then all of the other licensed products, the Ultimates, the Reactivates, the Funko Pops. It's just too much. It's just way, way too much at a time when, thanks to the box office, you should know Transformers is not where it was 10 years ago. It's been brutal. There's so much Transformer product out there right now. Even me, being a professional Transformer collector, I've skipped out on a lot of it because there's just no way to afford it all. It's terrible. And it just seems to keep going. And it's this year especially. We've all gone nuts because Ross and Ollie's seem to be flooded with extra toys. I can go to my Ross right now and find piles of Velocitron toys. I can go to my Ollie's and I can find Velocitron Override and the Leader Class Beast Wars reissues. Those are easy to find for me around here, and they're easy for a lot of people to find. You know, that's not something that normally happens. Not to this extent. You know, finding shelf warmers there, that's one thing. Finding entire toy lines there, that gets rough. That shouldn't be happening. So yeah, like, if Transformers has any fault in this, it's just like, hey, we can't buy it all. Calm down. Just calm down. Slow it down. I have a video in the works. It's literally just like what I think what Transformers needs to do after Legacy. And yeah, there's a lot of talk like that in there. But it's not just, you know, this is just like how I can bridge it into being on topic for this channel. There's so many other reasons. The Marvel Legends line's been struggling because, well, frankly, a lot of the Marvel stuff that has been coming out has not been nearly as popular as it used to be. Used to be just about anything Marvel you put out on the shelves would sell. And then ever since, Avengers, it just hasn't. Like, a lot of the projects have not taken off. You see, like, Eternals from a few years ago, completely tanked. You can get those still at clearance. I've seen, like, the Age of Apocalypse wave of Marvel Legends easily found at clearance. It's just downhill. Like, and the same goes for Star Wars in this realm, too. Their two biggest licensed brands are both just putting out dud after dud after dud, with just every now and then something comes along that just hits the right note. You know, Ahsoka's doing well, good for it. So in that, you've got some toy sales to be made. But, you know, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, you know, the Bad Batch, just there's a lot of stuff that just didn't take off. Book of Boba Fett didn't even do that well. And then, of course, we won't even talk about the movies from a few years back. And then you've got the same thing going on with Marvel, where a lot of their digital or plus shows don't do well. The movies aren't doing nearly as well. And, you know, movies in general haven't done well since COVID. So it's a lot of that, too. It's not just their in-house brands. Their licensed stuff is struggling because a lot of what it's based on just isn't producing anything good. You know, it's a struggle. We also have quality control issues across the board. Now, in Transformers, we know this with the yellowing plastic issues, the Masterpiece bungles, though it might be more on Takara's side than Hasbro's. But Hasbro's not innocent either. We know with their Power Rangers Lightning collection that they have a tremendous amount of QC issues with those. Parts with missing paint, parts used from the incorrect figure, missing pieces. Lots of things went wrong with this line. On top of just the fact that, you know, they ran out of popular Power Ranger lines, and this, you know, and they're just rehashing Mighty Morphin over and over. Which, granted, that's the guaranteed seller, but, you know, the collectors who want to get that RPM set, or the collectors who want to get like a full set of Wild Force or something, they're not going to be very happy, and they're not going to get what they are after. So that hurts them as well. And then just missteps, you know, doing what was the line? Because I haven't kept up with this. Doing like was it Ninja Steel? No, it's not Ninja Steel. Oh my God. I mean, Dino Fury. They did the Dino Fury toy line. I did reviews of it, and there's some really good toys in Dino Fury, and then they just stopped making a lot of toys for it. So the play system that they created, or aped, actually, just never had a chance of taking off. You know, they had a bunch of unreleased stuff that could have made the toy line more varied, and they didn't do it. Their Zap collection stuff, infamous for quality control issues, whether it's the Astro Megazord breaking or the main Megazord just being poor quality in general. There's just a ton of missteps in this toy line especially. Not the only toy line suffering. This was also the year of the toy vandalism. This is where the open packaging has come back to bite Hasbro really, really badly. Yeah, this is a common sight. This is a pretty common sight. I generally find a few of these every time I go to any toy aisle around here. And I know I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people who report like entire shelves that look like this. And when you start putting that together, you're talking about tens of thousands, even over $100,000 worth of destroyed material that can't be sold at retail. And, that stuff has to get, like someone has to eat the cost for that, whether it's the retailers or Hasbro having to buy it all back busted. It's a really bad look for the company, and it's really, really hurt their sales in general when you find so many of these toys already broken because people thought it was funny. Yeah, I'm happy windowed packaging is coming back, by the way. There's other sectors. For instance, I don't hear anyone talking about My Little Pony anymore. You think about Hasbro. You think about Hasbro about 10 years back or so. Not even that far back. But even into like Age of Extinction. You're talking about a Hasbro that was enjoying a $1 billion movie franchise in Transformers and a My Little Pony cartoon that had such huge cross appeal that it just kept going and kept working out for them. I think Friendship is Magic went on to be like the longest running cartoon Hasbro's ever done. Something crazy like that, I think. And you just don't hear anyone talking about the new one. Like, it's just dead in the water, it feels. Like, it exists there just for the point of existing. Obviously, I know it's got its fans, but what Friendship is Magic did, the note it hit, was just unparalleled. They never had anything like that was designed for girls, but boys took to it really well, too. And when you get something that hits both sides of the toy aisle, you get enormous results. I mean, that's just something that doesn't normally happen. You're talking like Pokemon levels of success there. So that got rough for them too. So they're missing out on the brands they used to be able to count on. That's another knock against them. Backing the wrong brands is a knock against them. Did anyone buy the Indiana Jones toys? Because they seem to sit forever on the shelves. I didn't see them go anywhere. I saw like line wide price drops on everything, and they still just did not sell. It does come down to Dial of Destiny, I believe is the last movie, just tanking at the box office. So you have, some of what Transformers went through, what Marvel's going through. And yeah, this is just among a few brands that they branched out into and just didn't seem to do well. I don't think their Ghostbusters line did all that well either from the looks of it. Another line that didn't go over well is Starting Lineup, and you could have told them that wasn't going to go well. Number one, you baked in NFTs at a time when literally everyone hated NFTs. But you're also dealing with Starting Lineup, and you would think action, like articulated 6-inch figures of big time basketball stars would actually do pretty well. But because you baked in the NFTs, these things were way overpriced for what they were. These things came out for $49.99 each. It's a 6-inch action figure. Us with Marvel Legends, G.I. Joe Classified, etc., we're kind of used to $24.99 for something like this. And then because of the licensing expenses and because of the NFTs, this got way overpriced. Nobody was interested. Eventually, they cut it down to $39.99, but even that didn't really save the line. I have not seen or heard anything of it. So this is going to end up pretty much like the last Starting Lineup, which, is laughably unsellable. We had someone at the toy shop ask us if we wanted to buy 100 of them. No, not on your life. Starting Lineups are the perfect toys to find at flea markets. That's just the truth of the matter. So, yeah, this wasn't going to go anywhere. We could have warned them. They did it anyway. Even their own brands did not do terribly well. The Dungeons & Dragons movie flopped, even though it probably didn't deserve to. That was probably suffering from the open gaming license nightmare that they went through at the beginning of the year. And the backlash might have gone on to its toy line. The toys based on the classic 80s cartoon didn't seem to do well. Not even sure. I think Wave 2 might have come out, but I didn't see it at any of my stores. Like, I was waiting for these things to go on clearance just so I could get the dice out of them. But beyond that, they also did the Honor Among Thieves toy line. That didn't seem to go over very well. A lot of it was available at the 35% off thing that Hasbro did for Black Friday. Yeah, it just across the board just didn't seem to do well. And yeah, some of that might have been just the backlash, or maybe just the product was wrong. But yeah, even some of their own brands had a rough time. But that's not to say it's all failure for Hasbro, which is the weird thing. Dungeons & Dragons as a toy line didn't seem to do well, but Wizards of the Coast is killing it. Despite the open gaming license fiasco, despite the controversy over overpriced Magic the Gathering product, Wizards still managed to do exceptionally well across Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons. It's Hasbro's most profitable sector. It's their first. They're very proud of the fact that it's their first brand that hit over $1 billion, which I'm not even sure what all, I assume is just, man, you imagine how successful the Transformer movies were for both merchandise and ticket sales, and even that didn't earn them $1 billion. So yeah, they've had successes. There are things that still do well, so it's not entirely a market standpoint. And even toy-wise, there are things for Hasbro that did well. Hasbro's most successful toy line in this year? Peppa Pig. They're very, very high on Peppa Pig. See, there's this myth that kids don't buy toys anymore, which is not true. Little kids still get toys. Their parents buy them toys. The kids who are too young to pick up an Xbox controller or operate a smartphone. The kids who aren't yet distracted by digital entertainment, they buy toys or get parents to buy toys for them. So things that are designed for young kids like Peppa Pig, Baby Shark, Bluey, those still do exceptionally well. And that's where Hasbro really shows a lot of their profit these days. Collector-based stuff is rough right now. We're going to end this off because this is all just like a lot of just like, hey, there's a reason there's a reason Hasbro's performing so poorly right now and why they're cutting so many costs. And it's not just a single one thing. It's a lot of different elements at the exact same time. But let's be honest here. The big elephant in the room is it's just expensive to live right now. We're not going to get into the politics of it. Don't do it in the comments section either. But let's be honest. A lot of this is just frivolous stuff nobody really needs to survive. Now, I happen to think it is important because you have to take care of your mental health above all. If your mental health fails, your physical health fails. Stress eating is a thing. Depression eating is a thing. I've been through it. I know a lot of people who have been through it. And, the proof of it is on their waistline. So when in a time when it's just expensive to live, a lot of people aren't buying toys. They aren't going to movies. They aren't doing the things that are technically not necessary for survival. And that's entirely understandable. But man, there are still areas of Hasbro that do really, really well. So, it's not 100% that. Like I said, it just seems to be a ton of things hitting. Hasbro has just had a really rough few years ever since COVID hit, and they're just not adapting to it well. And in the collecting industry, you either adapt or you suffer. One or the other. So Hasbro's got a lot to do to make up for it in 2024 and hopefully get back to the point where they can actually hire people again, because, yeah, 15% of your workforce is a lot. And again, don't do it just before the holiday. How cruel can you get? So, that's what's going on at Hasbro right now. Whether it will affect Transformers or not will probably be like at least a year before we know. Basically, whatever happens after Legacy is going to tell us how the Transformer brand is doing. So, we'll sit back, enjoy the ride, and see then. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
We parlay with the captain.
You think
A werecroc is going to listen to elvish rules of piracy.
Of course it would be the
Got it.
freaking elves
Cool.
that invented parlay.
I had to think of a quick replacement for the French.